Welcome to the podcast. I have a special guest today, Arjun Saraf. Just a short introduction for him is Arjun is a CPA, CA, EMD. He's a CFO of New Haven Mortgage Corporation, and which is also a mortgage investment fund. And he's also the CEO of Integrated Equities. I've had a pleasure of working with Arjun. Yeah, Integrated Equities right there. I've had a pleasure of working with him right after graduation, and I see him as a mentor. He's guided me throughout my career, and so we're always in touch. It's a pleasure to have him on, and we'll get into some details about investments and his role in the companies. Hey Arjun, how are you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for the kind introduction. Sounds almost weird coming from you and having us in this forum. It's like I feel like we've been working together so long that it's almost like we need to be a little formal while we're
Yeah,
talking now. So I look
yeah,
forward to
yeah.
the
Now,
conversation.
yeah, it's going out to the entire world now, so the
Yeah,
jokes have to
yeah.
stay at bay for now.
Definitely can't make the same jokes, but that's okay. We
Yeah,
can we can make financial jokes and see how those go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your your designations and how they kind of play into the roles that you have at these couple of companies here. New Haven and Integrated Equities.
So, I mean, personality wise, I never thought I would be a CPA. I just didn't see it in the cards. I had wild aspirations of trying to do different things, like even sports management. Um, and my father was a CA before me in Canada, and he had always suggested, he's like, you should do this, and I'm like, I did everything in my power not to go down that route, just simply because at that age, you want to rebel a little bit, and I when I came out of school, I realized that, being in every activity in school and being, president of this association or that, it doesn't really translate into anything in the real world. I mean, it gives you great experience, but in terms of trying to get a job, it became a little difficult. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And I started with law. That was somewhere what I wanted to explore, except, I shadowed a lawyer for a day and I decided that this is definitely not what I want to do. And yeah, it's crazy. And no offense to any lawyers out there, it's just not for me. And then I ended up finding this firm, this CA firm, that took a chance on me, and I ended up being good or really enjoying the work and kind of learning and exploring. And I think fundamentally in business, a CA is has definitely a lot of application, right? And the experience that you get in work, whether it be through a public accounting firm or a corporation, it really guides you in terms of the rest of your career. Even though you may not do it day to day, which I don't anymore, I still rely on all the skill sets and the tools that I built during my career in public accounting, during, the long hours in tax season, during, the variety of different companies you see. And that's the one
Hmm.
unique thing about working at an accounting firm or a CA firm or a CPA firm now, is that you see so many different industries. And it's very common for people who take those building blocks and then they find an industry that interests them. And for me, that industry was always finance and lending, right? And mortgages. One of the biggest markets in Canada is the real estate market. A lot of Canadians hold their wealth there. So, getting that the designation and then kind of moving on to it was extremely helpful. And I'm sure for you as well, you probably have a similar experience too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, going through the whole CA program and doing that, have the opportunity, like you said, you have it's so transferable, like the skills that you have that you can actually go into any industry really and be able to apply it. And that comes with its own flavor, right? And so you've kind of gone into the real estate and stuck to that because obviously it's one of the biggest industries in Canada, which is great. So yeah, no, thanks for the background information on that. So how do you, like as the CFO and the financial role, and going back to what you said about, so I guess the words of wisdom from your dad kind of came handy eventually. You looked
Don't
at all
tell
the
him.
different routes, and
Do not tell him that.
he needs to
Whatever
hear
you
this.
do, tell him that I did something else with my life, and he doesn't need to know that I ended up doing what he did. Okay, it's a very
Well, it's,
safe secret. He thinks I'm a sports star. Actually, he thinks I play golf
yeah.
for a career.
Oh,
So
really?
no,
Wow,
just
that's
kidding.
amazing. Yeah. So yeah, like how are you finding your role, as an executive? You have, you're managing so many people and there's a couple of companies involved. How do you find that, and how do you kind of balance those roles and be able to execute as an executive?
I think that to be able to successfully do the multiple roles and also balance life. Because a key component of what we all face day to day is our regular lives. Like my house had a flood, right?
Oh, wow.
I have a 3 year old daughter. So really it's about time management and making whatever work you do as efficient and effective as possible. And I think that especially with managing people, because you don't realize, and there's still a lot of coaching that goes on, especially for me, because as much as I like to think that I'm a leader, or I have everything figured out, I don't, right? Every situation's unique. Every person you deal with is unique, and every business is unique, right? And
Hmm.
it requires a little bit of skill set and knowledge that you need to specialize in. And as an executive, you need to be able to tie all that in, managing the staff, managing the business goals, and especially during times like this, right? Like,
Hmm.
the economy is uncertain, the real estate market's uncertain, and even though you may be looking at the numbers and you may have concerns, it still means that you have to make the decisions and choose the direction that is best for the company as a whole. And one thing that from the All In podcast that I listen to, one thing that really sticks with me is when they talk, they say rule number one about business: don't go out of business, right? And
Hmm.
everything else will follow. So managing all these different aspects of your life, it really comes down to time management and how effective you are at your day-to-day job, including delegation, because people
Hmm.
underestimate the value of delegation. And especially coming from a startup environment like New Haven, like when we worked together, right?
Yeah.
Or we were 7, 8 people, right?
Yeah.
So delegation wasn't really a skill set you needed. You just kind of did what you had to do that day, whether it be going to the bank to cash checks, or to, go deliver mail, or whatever it may
Yeah.
be,
Wrecking
right?
the Rex.
But wrecking the Rex, yeah, your favorite. We, all I know, you remember that? All I know is I need to reconcile it. That's all
Yeah.
I'm gonna do.
That's it. That's it. Click, click, click.
Click,
Reconcile.
click, click. Yeah, we're reconciled. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what happened. Doesn't matter what debits or credits were affected. We're
Yeah.
reconciled. That's the most
It's all
important
that
thing about
matters.
Yeah. But once the company grew, we grew to about 40 staff now, and it really it comes down to like being able to effectively delegate and picking the right people to be in the
Hmm.
right places. And it's a
Hmm.
constant challenge. It's not something that any one day, leadership, business development, all of those aspects of your business, there's no one day where you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm done. There's no
Hmm.
goal that you achieve. It's continuous improvement, right? And one thing that really
Hmm.
resonates is progress, not perfection, because you're never going to get to being perfect. And one thing that I had a little bit of trouble adjusting to from the CA world to the business world is people are not as accurate in the business world as they are in the CA world, right? Or the CPA
Mm.
world. Sorry, I keep calling it the CA world. I can't remember
Yeah,
what
I
it
know
is
we're used to
anymore.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think one of the hardest transitions I had was the whole reasonableness test, right? Because
yeah. Mm.
you don't business like being in business, you can't. There's a time management aspect, like I kind of mentioned before, right? So you need to make sure things are reasonable, and um, uh, I think utilizing all those skill sets will make you the most effective executive that you can be.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure, you're wearing so many different hats, and you're still, you're kind of making sure everything is set in order, and then all the adjustments, the with the economy changing as well, you have to adapt quickly, prepare for if any kind of adjustment, especially being in real estate, there's so many changes with, people coming in, going out, and the valuations and things like that. Going into that, just leading, I think it's a good gateway into leading into the New Haven Mortgage Income Fund. Maybe we can talk a little bit about. I mean, I've worked at New Haven, so I have information before the audience. Can we talk about what the fund is
You
about? What are the
you worked at
opportunities there?
Navy?
I think so. So
I don't
maybe,
remember you.
like, because I think, I personally think it's a great investment vehicle because, well, I don't want to speak too much about it, but, just to get into it a little bit, personally, I find that because it allows for different investment avenues, like through your RSP, TFSA, now even like other registered account, I'm sure FHSA is also going to be implemented. And kind of like through that, you not only have the option to invest in things like stocks, but you can actually get into real estate. In there, you have REITs and you have also MIC, right? And which is kind of what New Haven Mortgage Income Fund is about. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about that. So you have anything to share on that part?
No, I don't. That's it. I'm just kidding. The,
I know
so
you can speak for hours on it, but
yeah,
yeah.
I think mainly one of the things about the fund and what we're trying to do. So integrated equities, I'd just like to touch base on that. So integrated equities is a company that started in the exempt market space. So for everyone that doesn't know, exempt market products are private placement investments that are not necessarily available to the public markets. But to be able to invest in them, you have to have certain investor qualifications. And that could include expertise, knowledge, um, and financial standing. Because one of the things about investing in the private space is it's more liquid than the public space. So you can't go online and buy and sell shares like you would in your TFSA. Um, so it's important to understand what you're investing in. That being said, there are a lot of great products and options for people to invest in and to diversify themselves in real estate. Um, so each product that we have gives you access to the real estate market in a unique way. And our tagline is creating generational wealth through investing in real estate, right? And the MIC as an example. People sometimes will lend money on a private mortgage directly to a client. It's good in a sense when the market's great, right? But during challenging times, you need a management team with experience that understands the market, that can navigate the market, that can, make a decision on renewal in terms of legals, whether you go power of sale or foreclosure. There's different skill sets that the team at New Haven brings to the table, which gives an investor a unique opportunity to leverage those skills while still being exposed to the market through an investment. And we other products that we have, such as Graybrook. Graybrook is a great product. It's more speculative in nature. They're usually 5-6 year terms. They're development-based products, and it gives investors an opportunity to take part in an area that they may not be exposed to, right? And
Mm.
obviously, the returns dictate the risks that are being taken. So you look at the MIC as an example. Your returns are 7 to 8%. but you're diversified over a portfolio of hundreds of mortgages, and you have not too much concentration in any one mortgage, so it allows you to diversify yourself versus doing a development project from the get-go. You're looking at, how do you service the land? How do you get the land ready for development? Who is the developer partnering with? And I know a lot of people personally who tried to do development, who tried to get into that space, but in reality, unless you have the right contacts, the right cost, like the right cost centers, right? Because building something is expensive. And if you have contractors that you work with, contractors, they tend to be a little unreliable. If you ask the Ontario government, I'm sure they'll give you their feelings on that. Building the Eglinton Rail for about 36 years now, and if you don't have the right process in place, whether it be a MIC, whether it be a development project, whether it be a value add project or a REIT like Centurion, if you don't have that structure in place as an individual, it's very hard to get proper exposure to that market, right?
Yeah.
And especially expertise. That's really what you're investing in, is the expertise of the management teams from these companies. That gives you a wide diversification and access to the real estate market. So, one thing that integrated equities does is it allows investors to access products that me, myself, personally, am invested in, and that we've vetted as a team to make sure that, there's certain KYP rules that we abide by. There's certain concentration rules for investors we abide by. So, coming through integrated equities gives you access to these products in a manner that is responsible, right? That being said, these products aren't for everybody, right? And individuals should know their limits to investing, because you chase, 25, 30% returns with all your net worth, the chances are you're going to get burnt at some point, right? And you need to make sure that your investments have a wide exposure in terms of different products in the market. So that's something that we focus on, and the MIC is just one product of that
Right.
leverages years of expertise, from my partner Jason Viner, my former partner, rest in peace, David Viner, who was my mentor in the space, who taught me a lot of what I know today. And, things I didn't realize I knew just came up because, I was around him so much that I just sponged information off him. And that's kind of what the choice and the direction that we take our investors to.
Yeah, I think couple of points that I resonated with when you were speaking about this information is, diversification and getting the new know-how of the expertise and the management. There's only so much you can do as well, right? Like if you have some money that you've saved up, let's say you're a professional, you've earned money and you've saved up, there's only so much due diligence you can do in your spare time and be able to make those decisions. Whereas you have a team where you have the capability, you're kind of like leveraging the team to be able to get their expertise and get them to do the due diligence for a small fee, and then it gives you the option to invest in all of these different channels. For example, let's say you invest in a private mortgage and you select the wrong one, or the valuation wasn't correct. You've done it in one mortgage and the diversification wasn't there, and now let's say the value goes down 20-30%. All of a sudden you could have pretty much lost all your investment, right? Whereas in a MIC, for instance, you have complete diversification with hundreds of different mortgages, and so if there's any fluctuations, you protect your principal. So I think that's great.
One thing
Yeah.
investors forget today is like practicing patience, right? We come in a world that 2-3 years ago, crypto millionaires were made overnight and based on nothing, right? They're investing
GameStop.
on coins. Yeah, GameStop was one thing. That was kind of just, standing up against the big, the big players in the space, right? But, crypto millionaires, like you're speculating on a coin that has no utility that you bought at 0.000000001 and it went up, like a million times. And you've become a millionaire all of a sudden, but you've become a millionaire so quickly that
Yeah.
you don't really appreciate the journey of what it really takes to do that. And I'm not saying anything against people who made money in the crypto space. I made money in the crypto space. But to apply that mindset to every other investment that you try and get is incorrect in my opinion. I don't think because those are like once in a lifetime type opportunities that you know the problem becomes everyone starts chasing them, and all the people holding the bag at the end are the ones that lose their money. And the ones
Right.
that got in early enough and exited early enough are the ones who profited, right? And nobody has a crystal ball. When is the right time to invest, right? There's no right time or wrong time. Nobody knows exactly when that time is. Like who would have thought during COVID real estate would go up as much as it did? People were
Yeah.
dying, people were sick, right? Everyone was
Yeah.
being conservative with their options, but you know what happened in Ontario? Real estate went up, and people were scared to invest. People were scared to buy houses, but then became that frenzy where it's like we need to catch, right? So people were buying and buying and buying, and then sure enough, in 2022, in March, April, we hit the peak of that market, right? Where people who bought during that time or invested during that time, they're struggling now, right? Because
Yeah.
they've lost 20%. So, again, it's about patience and capitalizing on opportunities when they present themselves in a safe and responsible manner, right? And that's something that I can't emphasize enough. You may not become a millionaire today, but you will, if you apply the right principles over time, become successful as an investor.
Yeah, there's a difference between investing and gambling, right? Or investing and speculating. Like if you're investing, then you want to have those checks and balances and calculations in place, and you want to be conservative with your capital to be able to predict what might happen and be realistic with the expectations. Yeah, a lot of people who kind of jumped in at the peak, last year, let's say January, February, and then now when they're having to close $200,000 lower in valuation or something like that,
Yeah.
they're not able to close, and then all these problems happen. So yeah, I think like investment, you really got to know what you're doing, or else you can risk your entire life savings. Going back to so IEI, so I guess like in terms of, so how would you say, if someone wanted to invest in these alternative investments, would they kind of go through IEI and then look at the options there and discuss with your team and kind of
Yeah.
approach in that way, or how would it work?
So yeah, we have a great team at IEI. Shout out to Cynthia, Taylor, Austin, Darcy, Desiree, and Vanita. They do a great job. You one thing that's important is that understanding where you fit on the financial spectrum and what you should and shouldn't invest in. And that's a focus of mine, right? There are two things when I started expanding this dealership that I really wanted to focus on, which is one is picking the right products. So picking products that I would invest my money in. So that way, when I'm explaining to an investor, hey, this is a good investment, how can I explain that if I'm not choosing to invest in that product, right? I don't feel that's right. And two is applying an investor's unique situation to the investment and making sure suitability matches, right? I will not be scared of telling an investor, do not invest in this. This is not right for you, right? And I have done that multiple times. I've turned down investors from investing in products because I just don't feel like, one, they understand it, and two, that it's right for them because, again, they're out here chasing 25, 30% returns when they need to actually diversify themselves properly so that they have a wide range of products that they're getting exposure to.
Okay.
So,
And yeah, I'll finish up.
no, that's it, man. I could talk
Okay.
again. I could talk for hours
Yeah.
about this. You'd be here for
Yeah.
4 days doing this podcast if I got
Yeah.
loose.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's I enjoy anything to related to investment. So, I'm here
Yeah.
to listen and learn. So, one thing that a lot of millennials and Gen Zs is it's like there's this hype out there about passive investments, right? And one great thing about all these investments is that not only do they potentially provide good returns, but they are also very passive. So that's something that I think should be highlighted. And the other thing is with the I know that not everybody can invest in these products, right? And so you have to have some sort of qualification. Is there some high level criteria that you could explain or talk about so the audience knows, if they can approach or if it's good for them?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the biggest, there's two kind of overlapping themes here. One is the concentration theme, right? So the concentration theme is basically about how much of your net worth you are putting into these types of products, right? And it's about liquidity. So one thing that the industry encourages is net financial assets, which means liquid assets. So if you have let's say 500,000 of liquid assets, right? How much of that 500,000 can you place into an investment with us, right? That is, one of the overlapping themes. So when you're coming to invest, you should know that, no more than, an IEI's book, no more than 30% exposure to the entire market from your net financial assets is recommended, right? And two is, there are three levels of investors, and certain OM exemptions that you can kind of fall under. But from like a bird's eye view, permitted investors, people with $5 million or more of net assets. You have accredited investors, 1 million of net financial assets or more, and you have eligible investors. Now, eligible is a unique category because it allows access to the market for people who are not necessarily, making 500,000 a year. The income criteria is 75,000 individually or 125,000 combined household income. And you have net assets of 400,000, right? So that gives access to a lot more people in the market. Now, the flip side of that is there's stricter concentration rules, obviously. So if you invest, it's 30,000 up to 100,000, depending on the professional advice you receive. So for investors looking to access the space, assess your financial portfolio, understand the investment that you're doing. So you should never invest in a product you don't understand. And three, apply the first two into making a decision of how much you would like to invest in that particular space. And the team at IEI do a great job in terms of, helping you understand the big picture. So,
Yeah.
that would be kind of what I would tell people. There's rules in the industry. We're governed by the OSC. So we obviously, from a compliance perspective, that's something that we take very seriously. And, we want to ensure that investors aren't coming to us, with 90,000 in the bank and they're like, invest all my 90,000. We're not going to do that. We
Yeah.
simply won't, right?
Yeah. Don't
So,
invest your life savings into Dogecoin.
yeah, exactly. Well,
So,
I did. So that's why I was saying that if you don't mind, just saying I need to sleep over at your house tonight in the basement, okay?
oh,
Because I don't. Yeah, I made a
it's a
gamble.
multi-purpose podcast.
Yeah,
No wonder you
exactly. I
accepted
mean,
my invite. Now
oh
I
yeah.
was wondering how how you
You
came
think I
on so
did this
easily,
to
but
talk about finance? Can I borrow some money? That's why.
yeah.
Is this the wrong forum to say
Now
that on, or?
it's all coming together
Yeah,
now.
so it makes sense now, right? You're like,
It's
this
making sense.
guy.
It
Yeah.
is. It is making sense. So
So,
yeah, no, I think we had some great conversations. Let's talk a little bit about just on the lighter side. I know you have you're passionate about some different hobbies and you work hard. I think you are. I mean, I don't know. You're a work hard, play hard type of guy. So I'd love to hear some things about playing hard that you're into and what you're up to.
um, well, I have, what are my hobbies? I don't even know. Okay, I like sports. I like sports, but I've realized that no one's going to sign me to a professional contract anytime soon, so I have
Yeah.
to accept my limitations. I play pickup
Mm,
soccer. I really enjoy it with the boys, and I,
nice.
I like to
I think it.
travel a lot. I
Oh,
love
nice.
traveling, so traveling to me is kind of probably since I was young. Well, I don't know what I'm categorized as anymore. I'm kind of in this
Just
like unique
you're young,
floating.
still young.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
yeah.
What gave
As
it
long
away?
as
Is it the red in
yeah,
the beard or?
yeah, as long as there's a red in the beard, you'll always be young.
I'm good. Yeah, I have to paint this just before the podcast so you don't see
Yeah.
the white. Traveling to me is by far
Yeah.
you know the the most um, the most fun, and I have a beautiful 3-year-old daughter, and um,
Yeah.
I have a great family, and I love spending time with my family, my wife and my daughter, and my parents and family are in India, so uh,
Okay.
we have a family business back there that my sister and my father oversee together, and
Nice.
I like to go seeing them and spending time with my mom, who still lectures me to this day. She sends me those
Plus,
like
still
forwards,
parent support.
like yeah, she sends me a ton of forwards that are like,
Yeah.
if you want to achieve spiritual enlightenment, take these
Yeah.
steps. And I'm like, Mom, it's like I'm not going to do any of this. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but just in case,
Just in
she
case
said,
in my one day
yeah,
you might
just
wake
in
up
case.
and get the
Yeah.
inspiration to and then
Oh
she
man.
asks you about it after as well. It's like, oh, did you watch that video?
Yeah, oh yeah. And then like I love my mom, but like it's so funny. She like she researches these things and then like thinks for some reason that I would like them, and like
Hmm.
she starts, and then when I don't respond how she wants me to respond, like without enthusiasm, she's like, this is not right, Arjun. You should know and open your mind to these opportunities. And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
Mom, like you raised me. You made me into this. Well, I mean, she didn't make me into all the bad
Yeah.
things that I am, but I mean, she knows the type of person I am, and she's like, she still has hope though. That's, I guess, the key to the story. She hopes
Yeah.
one day I'll take the path to spiritual enlightenment.
A path
Um,
to yoga and spiritual enlightenment. Yeah.
yeah, and, like over the years, you and I, like we've spent a lot of time together discussing other, um, like politics, religion, like a wide variety of topics, and I
Hmm.
enjoy that too, right? Like I enjoy
Yeah.
understanding people's perspective. I think one thing in the world today is that like we've lost the ability to reason with each other. So it's like it's okay if we don't agree. Like,
Hmm.
I can have a view, you can have a view. And like, you and I, we don't agree on everything, right? But I
Hmm.
would still consider you a friend, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I need to do everything that you do. And I feel like the world lacks that a little bit. So I like engaging in conversations and understanding people's perspectives, because like the world has become so black and white. And I think there's room for gray area, wouldn't you say?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Right?
definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
There's always
yeah,
room for gray area.
yeah. So, meeting of the minds, and that's why I enjoy doing stuff like this. Like I enjoy just getting on this podcast and having a conversation with an old friend.
Hmm.
And we talk about financial topics, but we can talk about other things too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. It's always, we met just the other day for dinner, and it was a lot of fun talking about so many different variety of topics with
Yeah,
another friend. So, well, we'll hold that conversation for another time.
another
Or
time.
just yeah, yeah, for sure. No, it was a pleasure having you on, Arjun. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it
Thanks.
again. What's the best place to, get in touch with you or your team? Instagram, website, anything you want to share for contact information?
Yeah, you can visit us. Just Google integrated equities. Um, I think it's www.integratedequities.com.
I'll
For
post a
New
link.
Haven, yeah,
I'll
if you
post
could
a
post
link
a
on the
link
on the
on,
description. Yeah, for new. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm not the marketer extraordinaire, as
yeah. Oh,
hard
yeah,
as that is to
marketing teams.
believe. Even though I
Yeah.
seem all branded out. Shout out to my guys at Mortgage Automator, Pavel and
Mm.
Joe. But there's no intention to start branding myself on this podcast, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. No, perfect. So yeah, the links will be down there. So integrated equities, New Haven Mortgage Income Fund, and personally, do you have you're sharing your travels probably. I don't know if you want to share any
yeah.
social media links.
Well, I like to. I think my key phrase is sweatpants world tour, and I like to
Yeah.
travel in sweatpants to different places in the world. So if that interests you, feel free to follow me on Instagram and see my adventures.
Okay,
Arjun
perfect.
Success. All
Arjun
right.
6.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. All right. So I'll put the links to the website, and then if you want the sweatpants, then if Arjun is okay, I'll put that link as well. So it was a pleasure having you. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks for this, man. Talk soon.
Take care,
Bye,
Arjun.
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks so much, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.